The morning of the wedding dawned clear and golden, as if the universe itself wanted to bless what was supposed to be the happiest day of their lives. The venue shimmered with flowers, candles, and smiles, all of it perfect, all of it fake. Ethan stood at the altar, looking every bit the charming groom. Guests whispered about how lucky he was, how devoted he seemed. Only one person in that room knew the truth: the bride. Emily sat in her car just a few streets away, the wedding dress draped across her lap, her hands shaking not from nerves but from fury. The night before, she'd seen the message that changed everything. A text meant for another woman. Asterisk, I can't wait until this is over. She has no idea. Asterisk, her heart had cracked, then turned to stone. It wasn't the first time she doubted him. The late night calls, the secretive smiles, the way he'd flinched when she mentioned commitment. But now she had proof. She could have confronted him. She could have caused a scene. Instead, she decided on silence. Real power didn't scream, it disappeared. She watched the clock strike noon, the ceremony start time, and heard the faint sound of church bells in the distance. Guests were seated. The music was playing, and Ethan, the liar, was waiting. She took one last look in the mirror, adjusted her veil, and whispered, "You played your part. Now watch me play mine." Then she started her car and drove away, leaving behind her bouquet, her vows, and a man who would never understand what it meant to lose everything. In front of everyone, at the altar, Ethan smiled nervously, pretending confidence. But as minutes turned into an hour, and whispers filled the room, his confidence crumbled. The perfect groom became the fool. The silence of the bride became the loudest truth of all. Inside the church, chaos had turned to confusion. Guests shifted uncomfortably, whispers growing louder as the minutes ticked by. Ethan's smile had vanished long ago, replaced by a forced calm that fooled no one. "She's just running late," he said to the priest, but his voice cracked. Her bridesmaids avoided his gaze. Emily's parents were pale, embarrassed. The perfect wedding was unraveling thread by thread. Somewhere across town, Emily sat in a small cafe, her veil folded neatly beside her coffee cup. The world around her carried on as if nothing extraordinary had happened. And for the first time in years, she felt free. The decision hadn't come easy. The night before, she'd nearly convinced herself to forgive him, to go through with the wedding, to pretend she didn't know. But then she saw the photos. Ethan, arm around another woman, their smiles careless and cruel. The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was emotional, deliberate, rehearsed. He had been lying for months, promising forever while planning otherwise. Her friend Lily had tried to stop her from canceling the wedding. "You'll ruin everything," she'd said. But Emily realized she wasn't ruining anything, she was refusing to live a lie. Back at the church, Ethan's mask began to crack. Cameras flashed, guests whispered. Someone muttered, "She's not coming." Panic clawed its way into his chest. He checked his phone again. No messages, just silence. And in that silence, the truth roared. He had always believed he could deceive her, manipulate her love, and still stand untouchable. But now he was the one abandoned, exposed, humiliated in front of everyone he tried to impress. As Emily walked out of the cafe, sunlight hit her face, warm and clean. She tossed her engagement ring into a donation box outside the door and smiled for the first time that day. The world hadn't ended, it had just begun. The following morning, news of the vanished bride spread like wildfire. Social media exploded hashtags, gossip threads, photos of Ethan standing alone at the altar. By sunrise, the story was everywhere. Asterisk, runaway bride leaves groom humiliated. Asterisk, Ethan tried to spin the narrative. He told anyone who would listen that Emily had cold feet, that she wasn't ready for commitment. But those who knew her saw through it. The truth always has a way of shining through cracks, and Ethan's perfect image began to crumble. Meanwhile, Emily drove to her sister's cabin on the edge of town, a small wooden place surrounded by silence and pine. She needed distance, Not just from Ethan, but from the life that had been built on his lies. Her phone buzzed constantly, calls, texts, voicemails, but she ignored them all until one came through from an unknown number. Asterisk, you did the right thing. Asterisk, it said. No name, just reassurance. For the first time, Emily let herself cry not from heartbreak, but from relief. The next day, she received an email from an unknown address. Attached were screenshots of Ethan's conversations with multiple women, all of them overlapping, all of them recent. Her stomach turned, but her anger transformed into clarity. This wasn't just betrayal, it was habit. Back in the city, Ethan's charm was fading fast. The media attention had cost him his job, his reputation, and the sympathy of even his closest friends. People whispered that maybe, just maybe, he deserved it. Alone in the cabin, Emily made herself tea and looked out over the trees. The world was quiet, peaceful. She realized she had escaped not from a man, but from a trap disguised as love. For the first time in years, she breathed deeply and whispered, "Thank you, truth. You saved me, and somewhere." In the chaos of his downfall, Ethan finally understood that silence can scream louder than revenge. Days turned into weeks, and the chaos surrounding the wedding. Scandal began to fade, but not for Ethan. His reputation was in ruins. Colleagues avoided him, clients withdrew, and the life he'd built on charm and manipulation was collapsing. He tried reaching out to Emily, calls, emails, messages filled with excuses and apologies, but she never answered. Meanwhile, Emily began piecing her life back together, quietly and deliberately. She sold her engagement ring and used the money to fund a small business, an online floral studio that specialized in custom arrangements for women starting over. The symbolism wasn't lost on her. Flowers wilted, but they also bloomed again. Each order she packed felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. One day, while preparing a delivery, she received an unexpected visitor, Lily, her old friend, the same one who'd once told her not to cancel the wedding. Lily looked uneasy. "I owe you an apology," she said. "I knew about him." Emily froze. "What do you mean?" "Ethan. He wasn't just cheating. He was using me to get close to someone else. I thought he loved me too." The words landed like stones, but Emily didn't cry. Instead, she felt an odd calm. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You didn't hurt me. You just confirmed why I left." Later that night, she walked to the edge of the forest near the cabin. The air was cold, her breath visible. She whispered into the wind. He broke more than vows. He broke people. Back in the city, Ethan sat alone in the apartment he once shared with Emily, scrolling through articles and online comments. The sympathy he'd hoped for never came. Every lie had been exposed, every secret revealed. He realized then that Emily hadn't just left him, she had ended the version of him that thrived on control. And that loss was something he would never recover from. Ethan couldn't sleep. The night stretched endlessly, filled with replayed memories and questions that had no answers. He had built his life around lies, and now those lies were all he had left. Every message to Emily went unanswered. Every attempt to fix things met a wall of silence. Desperate for control, he started visiting places they'd gone together: the park, the cafe, the old bookstore, hoping she'd appear. She never did. Emily, meanwhile, was finding her rhythm again. Her floral business was growing faster than she expected. Customers loved her story, though none of them knew it was hers. She called her shop New Bloom Studio *, a quiet tribute to her own rebirth. One afternoon, a local journalist contacted her for an interview about women rebuilding their lives after betrayal. Emily hesitated, but agreed on one condition: her name wouldn't be used. The article went viral, and though Ethan didn't know who the woman in the story was, her words hit him like a mirror. Freedom isn't leaving. Someone is. Leaving the version of yourself that believed their lies. Those words haunted him. Days later, he saw Emily by chance crossing the street. She looked peaceful, lighter somehow. He called her name, but she didn't turn around. She didn't even flinch. In that moment, he realized she wasn't ignoring him. She had simply stopped hearing his voice in her story. For the first time, he understood what loss truly meant. Not the loss of love, but the loss of power. Emily's silence wasn't revenge. It was closure. And for Ethan, it was unbearable. Weeks later, Emily's life had settled into something resembling peace. Her business thrived, her mornings were quiet, and the weight she once carried was replaced by a strange lightness. But even peace comes with ghosts. One afternoon, she received a letter. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Ethan's. She hesitated before opening it. Inside was a single page. Asterisk, I never meant to hurt you. I lost control. Please meet me once, just once, so I can explain. Asterisk. Emily folded the letter slowly, feeling nothing. He wanted forgiveness, but forgiveness wasn't something he could demand. It had to be earned, and Ethan had never earned anything but pity. That night, she sat by the fire, thinking about what closure really meant. Was it hearing him say sorry? Or was it realizing she no longer needed to hear it? The next morning, curiosity or maybe strength pushed her to drive back to the city. She didn't tell anyone. She parked near their old apartment, walked the familiar street, and saw him waiting outside a cafe. He looked different, tired, smaller somehow. When their eyes met, Ethan stood up quickly. Emily, he began. I just wanted to talk. She sat down, calm, distant. He started apologizing, words tumbling out, desperate and rehearsed. I made mistakes. I thought I wanted freedom, but it was you all along. Emily listened quietly. Then she said, no, Ethan, you didn't want freedom, you wanted control. You just lost it. She stood to leave, her voice steady. You don't need my forgiveness. You need to forgive the man who destroyed everything good in his life. As she walked away, Ethan's reflection in the cafe window blurred behind her. For him, it was an ending. For her, it was just another morning she refused to let him ruin. That night, rain poured relentlessly, tapping against Emily's window like a memory that refused to fade. She couldn't sleep, not because she regretted anything, but because the meeting had stirred old feelings she thought were gone. Not love, not even anger, just a strange sadness for the woman she used to be. She remembered the nights she had waited for Ethan to come home, convincing herself that love meant patience. That pain was proof of devotion. But now she saw the truth. Love never required her to shrink. The next morning, she returned to her shop. There was an envelope waiting on the counter. No name, just the words asterisk for you. Asterisk. Inside was a letter from one of her customers, a woman who had read about her business and found strength in it. Asterisk, your story saved me. Asterisk, it said. Emily smiled softly. She didn't need to be famous. She just needed to make something good from what had once broken her. Across the city, Ethan stared out the window of his empty apartment, replaying her words over and over. He tried to find comfort in his new relationship, but it was already falling apart. The woman he'd left everything for saw through him too. You don't love anyone, she told him one night. You just hate being alone. Her words cut deeper than Emily's silence ever did. Months later, Ethan saw a news article about asterisk New Bloom Studio asterisk. There was a photo Emily, surrounded by color and light, her eyes alive with purpose. He stared for a long time, realizing he'd become a footnote in someone else's story. The man who once believed he could manipulate love was now just a memory in the life of a woman who had learned how to bloom without him. Winter arrived quietly, draping the world in gray and silver. For Emily, the season didn't feel cold anymore, it felt clean, like the air after a storm. Her shop was busier than ever, filled with women who came not just for flowers, but for comfort, advice, and something unseen hope. Each bouquet she made carried a message. Asterisk, you survived, asterisk. One evening, as she was closing up, the doorbell chimed. A familiar voice spoke behind her. "You really did it," Ethan said. She froze. He looked worn out, older. The arrogance drained from his face. "I'm not here to bother you," he said. "I just needed to see what peace looks like." Emily didn't turn around. "Peace isn't a place you visit, Ethan," she said softly. "It's something you earn," he sighed, stepping closer, but not daring to reach out. "I lost everything because of my mistakes. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I needed you to know I see it now, for the first time." Emily looked at him not with anger, but with clarity. "You always saw love as something to own. I learned it's something too. Protect even from people like you." She walked him to the door, the sound of rain falling steadily outside. "Goodbye, Ethan," she said, for real this time. As the door closed behind him, she leaned against it, exhaling deeply. There were no tears left, only quiet strength. Outside, Ethan stood in the rain, watching her light fade as she turned off the shop lamps. He realized what had haunted him all this time wasn't losing her, it was knowing she had finally learned to live without him. And that truth, more than anything, would follow him forever. Spring returned, and with it, a sense of renewal that felt deeper than the change of seasons. Emily's life had become something she once thought impossible: quiet, full, her own. Her business now had 3 employees, women who had each faced their own heartbreaks and rebuilt from the ruins. They often joked that the shop wasn't just about flowers. It was about second chances. One afternoon, as she arranged Lila by the window, she saw a familiar figure pass by. It was Ethan. He didn't see her. He just walked past, carrying a stack of papers, a job uniform instead of the tailored suits he once wore. His shoulders slumped, his eyes dull. Emily felt no anger, only an ache of understanding. Life had done what she couldn't, it had humbled him. That evening, as the shop closed, her employees surprised her with a small celebration. "For being our strength," they said. Emily smiled through tears, realizing how far she had come. Later, she sat by her window, writing in her journal, the one she'd kept since the day of the wedding. "Pain taught me who I was. Silence taught me peace. Letting go taught me love." Outside, the world glowed with soft spring light. She looked out and whispered, "Thank you for not showing up that day," because if she had, she would have stayed trapped in a story that wasn't hers. And now, for the first time, she was living the one she was always meant to write. The day of what would have been their 1-year anniversary came and went like any other. For Ethan, it was a reminder of everything he had lost. For Emily, it was just another day to live fully. She didn't check social media anymore, didn't look back. Her shop had become a symbol in the community. People came not just for flowers, but for stories, for hope. One morning, she received a delivery, a single red rose with a note. For the one who taught me what love really means. "I'm sorry." No name, but she knew. She placed the rose in a small vase on the counter, then went back to work. There was no bitterness left, only gratitude. Life had a way of restoring balance without her needing to lift a finger. That evening, she hosted a workshop for women who had left broken relationships. "We rebuild," she told them, "not to prove we're strong, but because we finally remember we always were." The room filled with quiet applause, eyes glistening. Later, as she locked the shop and stepped outside, the sky glowed with the last light of sunset. She thought of the girl who once sat in her wedding dress, shaking in a parked car, and smiled. That version of her had been scared, but brave enough to walk away. She whispered into the warm evening air, "You saved us, somewhere miles away." Ethan watched an old video of their engagement, replaying the moment he thought love was his possession. He closed the laptop, realizing too late that the best thing Emily ever did was never show up. And with that, her silence became her masterpiece, the one story no betrayal could ever rewrite. She didn't show up to her wedding, but she showed up for herself. Emily's story reminds us that walking away Isn't weakness its courage? In its purest form. Sometimes silence speaks louder than revenge. And peace is the most powerful ending of all. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs strength today. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that will make you feel, heal, and believe again. Because every ending can be the beginning of becoming who you were always meant to be.